What's going on, guys? It's your boy BlkStorm coming at you with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about a Battle Royale that I have been grinding out here pretty recently myself, Spellbreak. If you haven't played it or you haven't checked it out, highly suggest that you do. It's free just like every other Battle Royale, and there are a couple of videos already about pretty much, tips and tricks, but some of them I've noticed are a little outdated, so I kind of want to throw my own little, tip, trick video out there for new players such as myself. I'm not a pro player, none of that, so this is just to help people who are just as new as I am. So without any further delays, let's get into the video. Alright, so let's jump right into it. Like I said before, I am not a professional gamer, esports player, whatever you want to call it. That's not what I do. So everything in this video is 100% subject to change, and it's basically just based around how you feel when you play the game, when you queue into a lobby. This is what I do and what helps me out. I'm definitely new to this game. If I recall, this game was made, well, not made, but it's been out for a while. I know it had like an open beta, closed beta. I think it released this past fall, and I'm just now getting into it probably like a month ago from the time this video has released. So I haven't been playing for that long. I've only been grinding out for a little over a month, but there are little tips and tricks that have helped me out in terms of what has made the game easier. And so the first of those tricks, or tips, whatever you want to call them, is basically what I use for any Battle Royale. And it's finding out which way, or which play style, or which lobby suits you best. So are you a solo person? Do you go into Battle Royale lobby solo and only play in solos? Or are you more of a team-based player? For me personally, I prefer playing in squads, because I can pick a role to play in that squad that suits my, my playstyle. Like, even if you are, hey, I want to go in and hit hard. That's what you want to do. You want to be that person. Go in, hit hard and fast. You can do that, and you can be a part of a squad and do that. And it's really easy. I'm not gonna say it's really easy, but it's easier than doing it in a solo lobby, because when you're solo, you have to worry about everything yourself. When you're with your squad, you obviously have people watching your back, and everyone else has their own jobs as well. And it really comes out, in my opinion, in this game, in Spellbreak, because each gauntlet has its own element. Each element has its own passives, things like that. You have talents. So each talent, you have like your spirit, your body, and you have your mind, and each one has they have set abilities. When you equip one, they have set abilities, set passive effects that happen, and these things work really well when you're in a squad, right? So in terms of when I first got into the game, right, I didn't know anything about talents. I didn't know what mind, body, spirit. I didn't know what any of that meant. So I just jumped into a lobby and I started getting wrecked. Multiple games in a row. I got my first, couple of dubs, and then after that, I was like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. Still was getting wrecked. So one of the things for my second tip, after you figure out what type of lobby you want to be in, whether it's solo, duo, squads, my next tip is focus in on your talents. Now, when you first pick up the game, you're obviously not going to have that many talents. You're going to have to level up your gauntlets, your Tempest, Conduit, Frostborn, etc. You're going to have to level up each one of those gauntlets so that you can unlock certain talent abilities to equip. But once you unlock those, right, once you start getting talents unlocked, you can start playing around with them, and you should, because these will help you focus in on what play styles suit you the best. Now, certain combinations just work well with certain gauntlets, regardless of how you yourself like to play or who you're playing against. So that's something that you need to think about. hey, maybe this gauntlet doesn't fit my playstyle, so I don't want to jump into that. I want to play with this. So for right here, for this game that I'm playing, or this match, I chose to go with the Toxic set, with the Toxic build. Now, I'm using more of a default build specifically for this video because I'm going to go off the assumption that everyone who is basically... I'm going to go off the assumption that everyone who is watching this video and who's looking for these tips and tricks is just as new to the game as I am, so you don't really have as many talents. You don't have, much to pull from to help you get these different advantages. So I'm using a fairly default set, especially for and it works well for Toxic, right? It works well for a Toxic build. So for the first one, for your mind talent, I recommend Focus Mana. If you have at least 80% mana, your spell damage is boosted. Now this goes up as you increase your talent. You'll see scrolls throughout the lobby or throughout the the battlefield that you can read. If you kill people, sometimes they'll have one, they'll drop one. You can get it from chests, different things like that. You'll read it and it'll increase your talent. You'll have this triangle with these 3 circles, and every time you read a scroll that goes with that talent, it'll add, it'll fill up that circle, increasing the strength of that talent. So for the first one, for your mind, I recommend Focused Mana. Like I said, increases spell damage with 80% mana. For the body, I recommend Fervor. Gives you spell cast speed, same thing. It starts at 15% and it increases as you increase, the body talent. So Focus Mana, Fervor, and then for the last one, your Spirit talent, the default is Escapist. You also have Ambidextrous. That's also a default talent. I just choose Escapist because if you're brand new to the game, it increases your run speed. But that's not what I'm not here just to talk about the default talents because obviously that's what you start off with. I recommend Thirsty. Now this requires Toxicologist rank 3, so obviously you're gonna have to play a couple of matches. If you place really well, if you get a certain number of kills, all that kind of stuff to help increase your level up faster. Maybe you get a dub or 2. But once you reach Toxicologist rank 3, I recommend that you equip for your Spirit talent on your Toxic Gauntlet Thirsty. Now what this does is potions and shard consume speed is increased. So it's now at 35%, and that increases to like 50%, 65%, and 90%. But your consumables also replenish the health and armor of nearby teammates for 50% as well. Nearby meaning within 30 meters. Now this, you might be thinking like, oh wow, like there's some people who probably won't care about this because obviously you're in the solo lobbies or whatever. But if you roll with in duos or you roll with squads like I do, I play squads a lot. This is really helpful because if you're always near your teammates, then what you should be if you're playing squads, you should always be near your teammates. But if you're within 30 meters of them, when you consume stuff, it'll consume for them as well. You're helping out your teammates. You're letting them conserve their potions and their armor stuff for late game, final circle, whatever, so that you all can come in and you can swarm your teammates. Now, that is just the setup, right? That's just the setup. You're going into the lobby, you're queuing in, you found out, hey, I'm gonna roll, let's assume you choose squads. I'm gonna rock squads. I'm gonna do Toxic Gauntlet. Hopefully you're choosing Toxic if you're watching this video, because that's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna choose Toxic Gauntlet. Now you're like, alright, I've got my talent set up. I'm doing Focus Mana, I'm doing Fervor, I'm doing Thirsty. So now we're moving on. What is the next thing that you should do? Well, you should be picking out how you play with it. In my opinion, and the way that I play the Toxic Gauntlet, I play more of a crowd control. So the Toxic Gauntlet has this neat passive ability that it basically, when you slap it on somebody, when you hit them with that toxic spray, that acid, it corrodes their armor away. Their health, it just hits for one, for that base damage that it hits for. If you throw it on the ground, it can create puddles. It'll slow them down. It kind of makes them get stuck for a little bit, and it does continuous damage. But if you just hit them directly, all it's going to do is just hit them for that base damage. But if they have armor and you hit them with that Toxic Gauntlet, then it corrodes away their armor. If you hit them, let's say 2 times with it, right? You could probably corrode away most, if not all, their armor, unless they just have like a really high level armor belt on, which is really good. So I use the Toxic Gauntlet a lot for crowd control. I use it in combination with the Pyro Gauntlet. If you combine these 2 elements together, like if you create the Firewall, which also does good crowd control, I'll do a separate video on other gauntlets like the Pyro one if you guys want to see that. But just for the sake of this one, if you combine the Firewall with the Toxic Gauntlet, you create this green flame, which the Spellbreak community refers to as Dragon Fire. You can also just throw a fireball, let it ignite the ground, and then boom, hit it with the Toxic, more Dragon Fire. There are different combinations you can do with these 2 gauntlets. I think they work really well together, not just in elemental combination, but in the fact that you can use crowd control mechanics and playstyle with them both. You can set up the Firewall to A, block attacks coming from your opponents, or B, block your opponents from escaping or pursuing you, and you can do the exact same thing with the Toxic Gauntlet. You can slap them with some of that toxic spray, boom, now their armor's corroding away. Or you can hit the ground when they land, kind of get them stuck, where they can't really move all that well. Let your teammates kind of pinch in on them as well. You can hit them with, your Pyro Gauntlet while they're kind of stuck there. It doesn't last, like being stuck in the acid doesn't last a long time, so I don't want anybody to hear, oh, you can get them stuck with it. It's not like Gloom. Like, they could still move. It's just slowed. If you've ever played a MOBA where you get like a slowed effect, it's like that. So that's pretty much what happens, but it's still very useful because it kind of slows them down and it becomes a very tedious thing when somebody's hitting you with that. Also, something to remember is that both of these gauntlets are very close up and personal. They're not too close up and personal, but you're not going to be sniping anybody with the Pyro Gauntlet or with the Toxic Gauntlet. You're definitely not sniping anyone with the Toxic one. It has a lot more spread than any other gauntlet. It works more so like a shotgun than anything else, and it has an arc. So if you try to hit from a distance, it's going to kind of like go in a rainbow-like motion and spread out wide. But that's personally how I play with it. So I use those 3 talents that I named before. I definitely figure out my playstyle personally is rolling with a squad, just because I like that. I just like that squad-based gameplay mentality. You can still get third party just like you can obviously in solos and anything else, but for me, having a squad definitely helps out with that, being third party. And plus, Spellbreak, for me personally, it just feels like it's made for you to play with a squad. I don't know if it's just me, maybe it's the fact that when you first turn on the game, it defaults to putting you in the squad's Battle Royale game mode instead of solos. So, but that's just a personal thing for me. I just like playing with squads. But like I said, once you get your talent set up, once you figure out what mode you're going to play in, you could definitely use this for solos, but this is what I feel like helps me when I play with squads. If you guys want to see me do a solo build or a build for a solo queue or playing in a solos match, or if you want to see other builds for, for other gauntlets in squads, definitely let me know. Leave a comment saying, hey, I really enjoyed this. It helped me out. I want to check out the game. For the sake of time, though, I'm going to try and end the video here. I hope these tips are very helpful to you guys. I know they helped me out. I'm not sure if I do it. Wow, I definitely can't English right now. I don't know if I did a good job explaining how to use these gauntlets and how to use these talents. Hopefully I did, but if I didn't, you can definitely leave that in the comments too. I love any and all kinds of feedback. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you if you stayed for the entire video. I appreciate any feedback you leave. Definitely follow me on Twitch. I stream pretty regularly, almost every day. I do take a couple of breaks throughout the week here and there, but for the most part, it's every day around the same time, 8 p.m. I have my Twitch linked into my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.